So that's it. But let's pivot over to this week's walk.
Okay.
As we said earlier, East Queens. Do you want to start us off?
Okay, sure. So,
Let's start with the one where we walk because
I
the
was going to start
footage.
the other way.
That's
But okay,
why.
the footage goes that way?
Yeah, so I saved
Oh,
myself
good.
hours of having to
Oh gosh.
change things around.
Yeah, I'm glad you
All the footage already
steered
goes
us in this
in
direction.
one direction.
Okay, cool. So that's what we did yesterday.
Yeah.
So we leave our house. We walk in a way that we've walked a number of times already we walk up Cooper instead of up Decatur. But we've done that a couple times.
We've gone this route last week, but the footage that you're most likely looking at right now does not include last week's portion because we had already captured that.
I see.
So
okay.
It goes up Cooper and then on to Myrtle through the Ridgewood area and the Glendale area like we did last time.
But then we quickly veer off.
That's right.
Because we're going east now.
Well, we veer off the previous route.
Yeah.
But what that entails is remaining on Myrtle Avenue, which for people that are intimately, well, not intimately necessarily, but people that are familiar with Myrtle Avenue, but aren't familiar with the entirety of the road, if you like biking, it might be worth it to take a ride through the length of it because it changes quite a few times. Becomes some really interesting things. And the area where Jesse works is elevated train tracks and very Brooklyn City vibe.
And I would imagine that maybe a lot of the people listening to this are familiar with that part of Myrtle. That's the part of Myrtle that's runs through Bushwick and Bed-Stuy and is sort of like where a lot of people our age are living or visiting or, there's lots of bars and restaurants and stuff over there too.
Yeah. And then it becomes an area where there's a lot of graveyards, which we talked about last time. And also kind of a little more, residential feeling, even though there's certainly residences on that part of Myrtle, but less gritty city vibes and more, not even suburban, just kind of like more tree-lined and individual stores and whatnot. And then it turns into a park for a while.
Yeah, it goes right through Forest Park.
That's right, which is most likely the footage you've been viewing for the past few minutes while we've been talking. And it is, a really nice section over there. There's a lot of people working out in the parks and a lot of people biking through, a lot of tree cover, so that was always kind of a cooler part of the walk, regardless of what time of day we were going through.
Right. Yeah, you bring up people working out in parks. I know last week we talked about exercising in playgrounds, and some people had things to say about that, and that was good to hear people's thoughts. I think I would agree with what was written in the comments.
Yeah.
That, and I think we said that enough last week, but yeah, it was a little funny to see these people. I don't know if we mentioned they were childrenless. They did not have their own children, which was what made it creepy. My uncle commented and said that he used to work out, but it was with his kids, and I do think that that's okay.
Yes, I think everyone agreed.
I think everyone agreed on the etiquette of whether or not you should work out at a playground, but you said that this week on Myrtle we were passing a lot of people working out in the park, and it was like an adult playground, like an adult exercising playground.
Yes, there were
all those metal poles and stuff that a kid would probably want to play on too, but that it was very clear that it was for adults, or the adults had just taken it. Maybe it was originally for kids and the adults just took it over. I don't really know. We didn't get close.
No.
But there was another interesting exercise that we saw.
Yes.
That you saw twice, that I only saw once.
That's right.
Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. There's an area which, unfortunately I didn't catch it on the camera when I was doing the marathon loop. I caught the area where it was happening. You may have seen people exercising already in the video. There is a giant limb that has fallen from one of the trees in this area.
How long would you say it is? Like 30 feet?
Yeah, yeah, at least 30 feet long.
And like 8 inches in diameter.
8 inches might, I don't know, we didn't get up close. I think 8 inches and 30 feet long might be a little much.
I might be exaggerating. It might be 8 inches on the one end and it tapers down to like 3 inches.
Yeah. You might be saying, why does it matter what a stick looks like on the ground? Well, multiple different people were using this stick as part of their exercise regimen.
Yeah.
So I'd see people doing twists with it, people doing curls with it.
Lifting it up and down.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Jesse was with me one time where we saw a man. What was he doing? He was
lifting it up and down.
Yeah.
But he was like moving around it while he was holding it also, and then he was like also jumping around near it.
Yeah.
In between lifting it up and down. I don't think the jumping part really had anything to do with the stick, except that it was alternate training.
Right. Yeah.
And near the stick.
Yeah. So that was, quite interesting to see people really taking advantage of what was available to them in the park.
Yeah.
And
No
I don't
need
know.
to buy weights if you can just use that big stick.
Yeah, exactly. So there were no exercise classes this week that we observed, but it has been really interesting to see the degree to which exercising in parks is such a huge part of the New York City culture. And it's not like I didn't know that. I mean, certainly you pass a park at any time and there's exercising going on, especially when like there's a track or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, that it's so prevalent in so many areas, and I don't know if the virus has something to do with people just having time on their hands, but
Yeah, I mean, there's also like gyms and indoor exercising places are closed. So maybe there's more people out, but I don't feel like I have a great way to compare that. I feel like certainly I know, like you said, I've noticed people exercising outside always, and it's the summer and people are outside and like to be outside, but I don't know that it does feel like there's a lot of people at those
yeah,
stations.
yeah, we can only speculate. And
Yeah.
you're right, the fact that the gyms are closed right now would suggest that maybe there's more people, but I don't think I've seen any gyms, or I haven't taken tremendous notice of any gyms in neighborhoods either. It does seem like these would be the options for people
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
in a lot of these neighborhoods.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's really cool. I really like the
Yeah.
idea that, people are self-starting in these park areas, and like the city in a lot of these parks has accommodated them by providing, adult jungle gyms essentially for
Yeah.
people to do the exercise. And it makes it an area where there's actually, it seems like a lot of times there's a lot of positive energy around that space too. I haven't really gotten any vibes of people being negative around those spaces. Usually the people are supporting each other, and it creates an atmosphere where it feels good to be in that space.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like people are either supporting each other or just doing their own thing. It hasn't looked like there's a lot of competition. Oh, there was a gym. We walked by very early in the morning. It was across the street. I think we were talking about something else, so I didn't really point it out. But I noticed 4 people outside of a gym lifting barbells. It was like a class that was happening on the sidewalk. There was one person sort of telling them what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I noticed the 4 people all lifting their weights. Like it was outside of a gym that was closed.
Huh. No,
But that
I don't
was
remember
early on, not too far from us.
that. Right.
So, and we're talking more like as we get further out into Queens.
Right.
is where we haven't been noticing a lot of gyms, but so that one's more like in our neighborhood that I
Yeah.
noticed. But
Yeah, I mean, you got to figure the gyms want to start up too.
they have
so.
to figure. Yeah, of course, I'm sure, and people probably want to be able to use that equipment. If you don't have a giant tree limb available, then you really have to go find your big weights and stuff.
Right.